Welcome to the Scariest Things podcast, episode 11. Woo! Your gateway to the trends and tropes of the horror genre, where we tonight are going to cover, unearth, dig up the remains of your guilty pleasures.
Yeah.
So what do you think about guilty pleasures? How do you define guilty pleasures? Okay, first off, congratulations to making it to episode 11.
Yeah, indeed.
Yes.
Well done.
Good job.
One of my favorite things when watching the old Siskel and Ebert at the movies,
Right.
was that they would do on occasion a show that they would call Guilty Pleasures.
Oh.
And so this was
I think I vaguely remember that. Was it during their PBS years?
Yes.
Or was it okay?
Yeah. And the one thing that I realized is that Roger Ebert had a soft spot for trashy movies.
Right.
And
he loved him some John Waters.
I was going to say he loved Pink Flamingos and he loved Last House on the Left.
Right.
And these are movies that the general population would find wrong for any number of reasons.
Right.
And some things, I think this is one of the way I would call a guilty pleasure is these are movies that you go in and you go, yeah, a movie kind of sucks, but I love it anyways. It's a warts and all movie kind of a thing where no one's ever going to call it a classic.
Right.
I think a lot of Grindhouse falls into this.
Oh yeah,
and a lot of horror falls into this, but this is
certainly.
They can be obnoxious and goofy, and again trashy. I mean, there's like a lot of the movies that we've been reviewing and that I've been particularly reviewing of late are horror movies that take themselves seriously. Like no one would ever say Get Out is a guilty pleasure, or
because we are really in a new genre. I think we're in a very new genre of horror, because I think the 90s didn't know quite where it was at.
The 90s was a wasteland for
it was a wasteland, and I think it largely calibrated to teens.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the 2000s, I think we're in an era where horror is taking itself very seriously. Yeah. Not all, but a lot of
we were
horror,
getting there, and I think
it's taking itself very seriously. Whereas in the 70s, 80s, pretty mixed bag. Yeah. 50s and 60s, it was kind of a joke.
Right. Yeah. And I'm
we've
leaving
grown up. We've grown up, people.
And if you go to our website, scariestthings.com with one T,
yep.
You will see that I have a particular fondness for monster movie posters.
Yeah.
And that's the best thing about it Conquered the World is one that I posted today. It's a terrible movie, but it's got an awesome poster.
Yeah.
And
I think a lot of monster movies are really guilty pleasures.
Yes.
And I think monster movies are also synonymous with, tantamount to, horror movies, for sure.
Yes.
I mean, it's definitely they're not great, they're poorly made, and they're empty calories.
Yes.
In a lot of cases, although not always.
Yeah.
Not always empty calories.
I have one on my list.
I just think about guilty pleasure being sort of like. I just think about it thinking, oh boy, I shouldn't eat that last cookie. Oh boy, I really should, I should get off the couch, and I shouldn't watch Friday the 13th Part 4 again. I should really go do something.
But you're a sucker and you do it anyway.
But you do it anyway, and you go, well, that wasn't that bad. I probably could have spent my time doing something else,
right,
a little bit more intellectually stimulating, but I didn't.
Right. Yeah. So
that's a guilty pleasure.
Absolutely, and
that is guilty pleasure.
And
guilty pleasure, and then
empty
and
calories.
Frankly, I will say, this entire podcast is a guilty pleasure. Sitting down and rattling off horror movies is a guilty pleasure.
Absolutely,
that is the guiltiest. You're living through the guiltiest of the guilty pleasures.
Yeah, it's been masturbatory sitting here talking about these movies that are of dubious quality. Although,
Indeed.
Again, this golden age right now, we can actually plant our flag in saying we are being the heralds of this new age of horror movies. There's real quality. I think the last great, really truly great decade for horror was the 1970s.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had some good ones in each decade.
Yeah.
But I think that there has been a slew of movies since 2010
of true auteur film,
artistic merit, and
yeah.
quality acting, quality.
I would say,
filming, and
because The Shining came out in 1980, and that was masterful. Obviously, that was, as we talked about, films that transcend horror, and that was clearly a film that transcends horror. But so that was you were right on the cusp of the 70s and 80s there.
Yeah, and you had The Exorcist, and you had Jaws, and some real
the stalwarts,
the royalty of the genre.
Yeah.
So, but we're not talking about the royalty. We're talking about the court jesters here.
We're talking about the court jester in the gutter.
Right. So let's
half in the bag.
So let's go low.
Yes,
Mr. Campbell. Why don't you go ahead and start us off?
All right. So I, a couple weeks ago we were talking about like what are the taglines, and like some of these movies have great taglines. Some of the movies, because we were talking about taglines in the context of upcoming 2018 films,
things that are trying to tease you into going to watching the trailer and then subsequently actually going to see the movie.
Right. And a lot of the 2018 films that we were reviewing, A, didn't have a trailer, B, didn't have a movie poster, and C, didn't have a tagline. But all the films tonight have a tagline. I'm going to start us off with the tagline.
Yeah.
Lost River Lake was a thriving resort until they discovered Piranha!
I love Piranha.
Piranha is the 1968, 78, not 68, sorry, yes. 1978, Roger Corman produced film that was sort of a satirical B-movie that was directed and co-written by Joe Dante, who went on to do all sorts of other stuff. It was released in the same summer as Jaws 2. Obviously, Roger Corman, being a fan of the total ripoff, clued into the successes of Jaws and said, "Hey, we got to do a Jaws movie. Like, what's just as scary as giant great white sharks?" Well, it's piranhas from the Amazon, who happened in this case to be somewhere in Tennessee-ish.
The Chattahoochee.
The Chattahoochee. The film it's just a fun movie. It's a great movie. There's lots of great acting in the film, lots of fun acting in the film, but it basically involves a couple of teenagers that come upon an abandoned military installation at night. They decide to, what would you do if you came upon an abandoned military installation?
Sneak in
and go skinny dipping.
Yes!
That's what you want to do. They go skinny dipping, and of course they are attacked by an unseen force. It's later revealed that the military installation is led by a scientist who is running the organization that is a defunct Vietnam War project called Operation Razor Teeth.
So, Piranhas is a military experiment.
It is a military experiment. That they were basically trying to come up with this prodigious strain of piranha that could endure the cold waters of North Vietnam, which makes no sense.
War's over.
War's over. It's 1978. Come on, be cool. Long story short, the piranhas are accidentally released into the rivers of the Chattahoochee downstream to a large nearby summer resort, and of course the piranhas, these genetically altered monster beasts, attack the kids at the resort, which happens to be opening on that very day.
Bloodbath and Beyond.
Yes, it is Bloodbath and Beyond. Piranha is a fun movie. It's a great movie. Of course, it spawned, no pun intended, Piranha 2, The Spawning, in 1981.
Which happens to be
James Cameron's
first movie.
And then 2 remakes, one in 1995, which I have never seen, and then, of course, the one in 2010, which we covered a couple weeks ago, and then a sequel in 2012.
With the great name of Piranha 3 Double D. 3
Double D. Piranha Interestingly, and I don't know if this was like purposeful or set up or they actually thought through this, but Piranha, the end of Piranha really sets up Piranha 2 because guess where the piranhas go? To the ocean.
Right.
Which, again, makes no sense. But there is a great line at the end of Piranha where there is a voice heard carrying out over the radio over the shores of the West Coast, which I didn't know the Chattahoochee was connected to the West Coast, but it apparently it is somehow. And she says, "There's nothing left to fear." And the screen goes bloody red. No, Piranha might be one of the guiltiest of the guilty pleasures. It is a fun movie. It's a monster movie. It's a total rip-off movie. It's a Roger Corman movie. It's got all the qualities that you would want in guilty pleasure. Checks all the boxes.
Indeed.
So, number 4 of the fearsome foursome for you is...
Okay, well, I'm picking a legendary director, John Carpenter.
Ooh.
Now, he has given us some of the best horror movies of all time, including my all-time favorite, The Thing, Halloween, The Fog. This is not one of them.
Assault on Precinct 13.
Oh, that was awesome, yeah.
Not a horror movie. Really not really a horror movie.
Nope.
They Live.
Yeah. And,
not a horror movie.
Starman.
Not
a horror movie. But this movie clocks in at a Rotten Tomatoes score of 21% and a Metacritic rating of 35. So
no.
The tagline. Now let's see if you can guess the movie.
Yeah.
If I say you don't stand a ghost of a chance.
Ghost. Oh, okay. Yeah. The Fog.
No.
Oh.
John Carpenter's Ghosts of Mars.
Oh, with Ice Cube.
Ice Cube.
And, hell yeah.
And Natasha Henstridge.
Yeah.
Statuesque model / sort of actress who was in Species. Looks very Aryan and gorgeous, and
Barbara Bach, maybe, or
it's So there was her. We also had a very well. I don't know if young is the right way to term it, but one of Jason Statham's first movies.
Oh, Jason Statham is in Ghosts of Mars,
and Pam Grier, fabulous Pam Grier.
Pam Grier.
To blaxploitation royalty right there.
We won't get there, but yeah, Pam Grier is the greatest.
Anyway, so yeah, it is it's totally stupid. Mm-hmm. I love it anyway.
That's a great movie.
It
obviously it really borders. It's a definitely crossover.
It's an action horror,
sci-fi because they're on Mars.
Yeah, and so I think that the premise here is that Mars has been colonized as being strip mined for all the resources,
right?
Because it's evil corporations, and now they're following. The transportation of Desolation Williams, Ice Cube, who plays the most dangerous criminal on Mars, and Henstridge and Pam Grier are the security team that's taking him to prison.
Yes.
What
year was Ghost of Mars?
Ghost of Mars, 2001.
2001, right? Okay.
And
it looks like it was made in 1971.
It looks like it was on a Star Trek stage. It's like a terrible, terrible sets. And the premise here is that there's this prison transfer, and they're guarding. They've got Desolation Williams on a train, and then there's a call for help at one of the mining facilities, as things seem to be going. There's a violent outbreak, and so the space cops stop at this mining station, and it turns out that the miners have unearthed a ancient ruin of ancient Martians.
Yes.
Which happen to have evil spirits in them, and the miners are all being converted, and they all end up looking like they're part of a bad Kiss cover band kind of thing. And they turn into these vampires with sharp teeth, and they have like tattooed faces, and they're super violent, but John Carpenter doesn't even bother with trying to give them a Martian language. They just kind of go and
this is John Carpenter and the Phantom of the Theme Park.
So when you watch that, so admittedly, with a guilty pleasure, you're allowed to laugh at the movie and laugh with the movie, and I did both with this one, and It is pure dumb fun. I mean, it's a body count movie where there's a lot of violence and there's these ghosts that really not ghosts. They're like more they've possessed the miners and the guy, the lead Gene Simmonsy looking dude who goes around. I guess Pam Grier suffers a fabulous decapitation sequence. It's kind of cool,
right?
I think they were capitalizing on movies like Aliens, where it was like you got a bunch of hard ass cops, and then you have to team up with prisoners, and so there's and they're gonna make a stand against these ghosts or these possessed miners, and it's super fluff, but it's one of those things where if I'm channel surfing and I hit Ghosts of Mars, I'm watching it.
I think you hit the nail on the head though with regard to like what constitutes maybe unwittingly hit the nail on the head with what constitutes guilty pleasure. It really is. You can laugh at the movie and with the movie, but you're never laughing in like a malevolent way. It's done in a really loving way, right? And that is the key to the guilty pleasure,
because there are moments which are just ridiculously over the top,
right?
In this, it's preposterous, and at the same time you go, yeah. Mm-hmm. That's fun.
These aren't necessarily movies that are going to scare you, except for the next movie.
Okay.
Which tagline is, "You made it through Halloween. Now try and survive Christmas."
Silent Night, Deadly Night? All right.
The 1984 slasher film starring no one you've ever heard of and no one you ever will, set during Christmas, which has spawned a million different films. Basically involves a little boy, Billy, who suffers from post-traumatic stress after having witnessed his parents being murdered on Christmas Eve.
Oh no!
By a Santa Claus, wearing a Santa Claus suit. And, of course, he is sent off to an abusive, evil Catholic orphanage, and his hatred, disgust, fright of Christmas only grows and grows over the years, to the point where he has this horrible psychological breakdown when he's working in a toy store, and then he emerges as a spree killer donning a Santa suit.
Nice. Great poster too. Santa's arm coming out of the chimney with an axe.
Yes. It's a great poster. It was a really, obviously, which we just talked about. I mean, it was a fun time in horror, the 1980s, because it was really like, it really was that sort of that transition from like, okay, we got to figure out how to like get the grindhouse films into more of a mainstream audience. We have to figure out a hook. Mm-hmm. Like a lot of these things, we can't just like throw out killers. There has to be some sort of interesting, unique hook, and that's what this film did.
It's an era where I know that you've been asking to do with it. At some point, we'll probably get down to it, which is the holiday horror movies.
Yes,
but every holiday seems to maybe. I don't know. Does President's Day have one yet? I mean,
no, but it should.
That's right. So it's like you get, and especially now we get,
look out, Calvin Coolidge.
It's Donald Trump. But My Bloody Valentine's.
There's a lot
Happy
of great.
Birthday to Me. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. By the way.
Yes. And Happy President's Day.
Yeah.
Coming next week. Yeah, so there's I think a lot of those films were very clever. They were very hooky. They obviously sort of played like Halloween kind of broke the mold, of course, and then you had April Fool's Day, you had My Bloody Valentine, you had on and on and on. The thing that really makes this such a great film is that it is pretty low budget. It's very earnest, very simple. The kid who plays Billy is both completely unbelievable and super believable all at the same time. Kind of, again, getting back to this idea that you can laugh at the film and you can laugh with the film. The film culminates where, Billy returns to the orphanage to seek revenge on the Catholic nuns who had treated him so poorly over the years. And he gets back to the...
you get the sense that the director went to Catholic school?
I think so. I think he might have. Or he didn't get what he wanted. He did not get what he wanted during Christmas. But Billy ends up getting shot in front of Mother Superior's in a wheelchair. Billy gets shot, and then one of the little kids witnesses Billy getting shot, turns to Mother Superior and stares at her, and he says, "Naughty." Which was Billy's catchphrase, naughty or nice. Silent Night, Deadly Night is a great film. I cannot speak for the rest of the Silent Night, Deadly Night catalog, but I can speak for the first one, and it is terrific. All right, number 3, Eric.
Okay, so my number 3 is one that actually has it's got a pretty good Rotten Tomatoes score. It's a 71%, but nobody would consider this to be a film.
Tagline?
Like art.
Tagline?
It's crazy.
It's crazy. Ooh, my curiosity is piqued.
We saw this as a 1988 film.
Ooh.
We saw this in the dorms.
Oh my god.
And it's got one of the best titles for any movie, and the title alone will tell you this is either a guilty pleasure movie or total shit.
Yeah.
It's Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Oh man, yes.
So this was
good stuff.
This was one where I don't know what would have compelled us to pick this off the shelf, other than it's just like
it was the box.
The box, yeah. These are the costume. The clown costumes are so fun.
Yeah,
and they're just these. Well, okay. Here's the premise, right? The circus has come to town, or rather, it crash landed on Earth because it's a big top tent. Is the alien spacecraft, and it lands outside this small town, and these clowns have come to round up the citizens of this small town that I think it was actually Santa Cruz is where they filmed this thing.
Okay.
I don't know the actual town that the supposition of what this thing is, but
Santa Cruz sounds good to me.
Sure,
it's a nice city,
small enough that you can round up the whole population and eat them.
Right. What up, Santa Cruz?
So they they capture the local population. They put them into cotton candy cocoons.
That's
to prepare
right.
them. They had, and some of their weaponry included. They'd hit you with a pie that was filled with acid.
Right.
Like the shaving cream pie. It's like it burns, and have all kind of their crazy arsenal of like squirting flowers with acid water.
Right.
They got these guns that shoot deadly popcorn, and it features the actor who did John Vernon, who was Dean Wormer in the Animal House movies.
Rest in peace.
Plays the local sheriff, and my favorite part of that movie was when one of the clowns. They initially round up these clowns and they put them in jail.
Right.
And the clowns break out and they kill the sergeant and they turn him into a human ventriloquist doll.
That's right.
And so they got a hand jammed into his back and he's pantomiming the clowns and he's communicating to because they don't act. The clowns never say anything.
Right.
They just sort of goofily stare, and that's it is remarkably solid plotting and just fun. It was a fun.
Do you remember who directed Killer Clowns from Outer Space? Was anybody famous? It was like a
let's see. IMDb.
A James Cameron.
No.
A Joe Dante.
No. So Stephen Chiodo. So the answer is not John Carpenter.
Good job, Stephen Chiodo.
I don't know what else he's done, but you know what? There's no reason why this movie should be as good as it is, but it actually is a pretty good movie. It is. It's solid front to back, and it's just fun.
Yeah, I like it.
Yep,
I like it. All right, getting down to number 2, the tagline for this film was 18 feet of gut-crunching, man-eating terror.
Okay, is this...
You're never going to get this one.
No, I've heard this tagline.
Never, ever, ever.
This is 18 feet. Is this like a crocodile loose in the sewers movie?
No.
Okay.
But you're close. This is the 1976 American horror film known as Grizzly. You know, the 1970s were particularly frightening for a number of reasons. Amongst them was sharks in the water, and which we already discussed, and Sasquatch. And this was like the perfect intersection. This was the nexus between sharks and Sasquatch. Grizzly bears, of course. Much like Piranha was a total ripoff of Jaws, Grizzly used the exact same plot device as its shark forebearer.
Was there somebody swimming in the water and the bear drags him underwater?
Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
The bear was portrayed by a bear named Teddy, who was not 18 feet tall. He was only 11 feet tall. But it basically, it's sort of like you've got Christopher George, who's a great actor. He did lots of great stuff in the 70s. He plays the national park, an unknown national park chief ranger, and they go out and they find two girls that were attacked by a bear, and lo and behold, this bear is super smart, and he's out to get the patrons of, again, this undisclosed national park.
Sure.
It follows, almost to a T, many of the same twists and turns as does Jaws, as does Piranha.
So do they have it's like we gotta close down the park because there's a grizzly bear loose.
Right, but we can't close down the park.
It's high season.
It's high season. We're going to lose money. Come on, you guys. The film, of course, it culminates again, much like Jaws, with a very strange and kind of climactic ending where they of course take a helicopter out to try to track the grizzly bear. The grizzly bear is able to swat down the helicopter because what 18-foot grizzly bear couldn't swat down a helicopter?
You're going to need a bigger helicopter.
But they don't actually need a bigger helicopter. What they needed was a bazooka. For some reason, the National Park Service has been issued in this film bazookas. They pull the bazooka from the down helicopter. And then seconds before the bear can reach them with his giant paws, they shoot him with the bazooka, and there is bear parts everywhere.
So, okay, now I will admit, I have not seen Grizzly. No, but around the same time, there was a similar movie called Prophecy.
Right.
Which was a mutant bear.
Right. And that is Talia Shire of Rocky fame is in Prophecy.
I remember the
Prophecy's good, and in fact, Prophecy go look at scariestthings.com because you'll see the Prophecy website, the Prophecy poster.
I particularly had fun with the write up on that thing because I swear that the marketing team behind the Prophecy poster was Aliens was a hit. Let's do an egg thing. It's like, but it's a bear. Well, let's make it an egg and a bear and an egg. It's like, wow, okay. And it's like, well, a bear is a mammal. What the fuck? And they're like,
what's scarier than an alien? What's scarier than a shark? A bear embryo.
That makes no sense at all. But was this just an oversized grizzly bear?
No, it's like
So it wasn't like a zombie bear.
No. It was just a ferocious bear. Yeah, just like Jaws. Yeah,
but
same thing. They don't really disclose to you the impetus for the bear's rage or anger. You don't really need to know that. It's just that it's this giant freak of nature that is out to kill everybody in the national park.
So a scarier bear than the one that we saw with against Leonardo DiCaprio in
Revenant. Maybe.
That was a scary bear, man.
Yeah.
It was also a real scary bear movie that was in an Anthony Hopkins film. They're going to Alaska.
Oh yeah.
That bear took out a couple of guys and ripped them up in little meaty chunks.
Those aren't horror movies. This
are adventure movies.
This might actually.
This one is straight up. This one's playing for the bear movie with a body count.
That's right. For the Jaws crowd.
Yep.
All right. So what do you got for your number 2 horror film?
Sadly, my
guilty pleasure.
Sadly, my number 2 guilty pleasure does not have a tagline.
Oh,
bummer.
So it's not Grizzly. Clearly,
no, it's not. It's a 56% on the Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh.
So it's not.
You know what? I know this is a little bit of an editorial for the day, but I don't trust Rotten Tomatoes.
Rotten Tomatoes is because it's binary. They don't show it's either thumbs up or thumbs down. So this is roughly more than half people like it.
Right.
Or critics.
I don't buy it.
I like Metacritic if you're doing a movie reviews thing because they will weight it based on how much they liked it or how much they didn't. I think that Rotten Tomatoes is more of this Siskel and Ebert thumbs up, thumbs down.
Yeah.
And you can easily go. You can be a slightly good movie and get like a 95%.
Yeah.
Like a lot of Pixar movies.
Yeah.
Or you can be slightly bad and get a huge, a terrible score. Like,
right.
I don't think Justice League deserved to get panned as badly as it did, but it wasn't, because it was an okay movie. It was not a great movie, but it wasn't a terrible movie. But the Rotten Tomatoes score would reflect that the critics thought it was
In a future episode, we will be discussing the lowest rated horror films of all time.
Yeah, you can get some real bottom scrapers here. I've got one that'll come later that will be one of those.
Planet 9.
So this is one of my favorite Lovecraftian movies. It's a little Spanish movie called Dagon.
Oh yeah.
It kind of reminds me of a 70s exploitation movie.
What year was Dagon?
2001.
Again? That's right. Yep.
It's a micro budget, but they made really good use of what CG effects that they had. Mm-hmm. But this is essentially the retelling of The Shadow over Innsmouth, which is a classic tale from H.P. Lovecraft, in which someone, in this case, a young couple. Their boat springs a leak and they limp into harbor, and it happens to be infested with cultists who are half-bred fish people, and although they doesn't show up immediately, they're just kind of off.
Fish people are big right now.
Yeah, it's real big. In fact, again, go to check out. There's a movie coming up called Cold Skin.
Cold Skin, right.
Looks like sort of is borrowing a little bit of Shape of Water, borrowing a little bit from Dagon, actually. Yeah. And it's, these are not lovable,
not
Shape of Water.
Not lovable fish.
No one's kissing these things. Although actually
This is not Sigmund and the Sea Monsters. Not lovable sea monsters.
No, and it's a micro budget movie. It's really bloody. It's got lots of boobs. It is a very grindhouse movie, but the storytelling is so tight. It actually holds. It probably brandishes the Lovecraft ethos better than almost anything, with maybe the exception of the Mouth of Madness. It is.
Yeah.
It's a really solid Lovecraftian tale. It's just not going to be people's favorites because nobody. I don't think it got out into theaters. It's like a video. Right. It's a foreign horror movie, so it's got 2 strikes against it. So it's not going to play in the theaters long. So it's streaming on video,
and it's got kind of a silly cover.
The cover,
the cover is really silly, and it doesn't really tell you. It certainly doesn't. No. It certainly doesn't sing Lovecraft, and it certainly doesn't tell you about what the film is.
No, it looks like it was like one of those straight-to-video 80s movies like Creature or something like that. And no, it's much better than that.
Yeah.
So I guess in a way this is me throwing love to an underappreciated horror movie but it's a grinder. It's got a lot of the kinds of things. It's going to come for the boobs and the blood and stay for actually the good plot.
Go see Dagon.
Dagon.
Okay. We're down to number 1.
Number 1.
Heaven, help us all when the devils reign. The 1975 horror film. Check this out. This is the cast of The Devil's Reign. The William Shatner, Tom Skerritt, Ernest Borgnine, Eddie Alpert, Ida Lupino, Keenan Wynn, John Travolta, and Satanist Anton LaVey is actually credited as a technical advisor to the film.
Oh, no.
The ultimate in guilty pleasures is really The Devil's Rain. Devil's Rain is a bonkers movie. It basically involves this family, the Preston family, which is William Shatner. He's not a Satanist. He's a good guy in this one.
Borgnine's a Satanist, though.
Borgnine is a Satanist. The family is cursed by their betrayal of a satanic priest, played by Ernie Borgnine. And the family has been harassed for generations and generations for trying to obtain this satanic book of great power.
Nice. What a cast.
Yeah, it's the cast is kind of crazy. You know, it was 1975, so it was obviously really super early on for John Travolta. A lot of these other and not super early on for
William. When did he turn? Tony Manero was 78. Saturday Night Fever.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So it was pretty early on in some of these people's careers. Certainly not Ernest Borgnine or Ida Lupino or Keenan Wynn, but some of the other folks. It was somewhat early on. It's a great movie. It's this great sort of desert movie where the family is trying to deal with these Satanists, and it culminates with the Satanists. They converge on this church, and through a whole series of very convoluted actions in them trying to obtain the satanic book. A storm rages outside. The Satanists eventually melt, and in this, what can only really be described as this very, very weird sort of psychedelic happening where, and it goes on forever. That's the thing. That's the thing of the Devil's Rain that really sticks with you, is that there's this crazy ending that is very psychedelic, and it hangs on for, God, the better part of like 10 or 15 minutes, and you keep thinking, is this ever going to end? It eventually ends.
Is it like the extended thing like Lord of the Rings where they keep on, and another thing, or is it just one long drawn out sequence?
Well, yeah, it's really just more one long drawn out sequence where the Satanists are melting and screaming, and it's got some great visuals, but super amazing, really amazing cast, and it's not a terrible film. I mean, I know it is one of those kind of films that I don't know what Rotten Tomatoes would tell you about it. I don't know what Metacritic would tell you about it. They would probably give it pretty poor reviews, and that's kind of the whole point of it. This is a guilty pleasure that is a fun movie that is filled with great classic actors of yesteryear. So nice. Go see The Devil's Rain.
Okay.
Number 1, Eric, with a bullet.
All right. Tagline, you can't scream if you can't breathe.
Yes.
All right. 1997.
Yeah.
Now, we've been talking at length about how disappointing the 1990s were for horror movies. This probably gets lumped in with them, but by God,
Urban legend.
This is Rotten Tomatoes score 37, that's a Metacritic of 37. Rotten Tomatoes of 39.
Stink A.
But it was a very popular movie.
Yeah,
very popular movie. It's Anaconda.
Oh,
okay. So this is.
Oh my God.
Pure dumb fun for me. Now this is the kind of thing where if the movie elicits groans from anybody, it automatically goes into a guilty pleasure category.
Are there snakes in there that big?
This snake. Well, here's the thing with movies like Jaws, with movies like Grizzly.
Do you realize you've picked 2 Ice Cube movies?
Yes.
Did you know that?
I totally knew this. And this is like, these are very, Ghosts of Mars, 2001, Anaconda, 1997. I think this is the second movie that he did after
Poison the
Hood.
Possibly.
Might be.
Yeah, right
but it's early J-Lo.
Yeah, early J-Lo.
Early Owen Wilson.
Yep. John Voight.
John Voight with over the top John Voight.
Yes.
I mean, it's like with the terrible Cajun accent. And hello, pretty bird. Hello, because it's like, what are you going to do, pretty bird? Voight he is chewing up the scenery and absorbing all the energy on the screen whenever he's on it, and it's overacting Anonymous. It was spectacular, and there are moments in there where like. Because it's a killing by numbers thing, and the anaconda is goofy big, and it keeps on. It's like eternally hungry. Unlike normally a scientist would say, "Well, this anaconda can eat this pig, and it'll be able to last for months without having to eat again." No, this anaconda is going to try to eat everybody on the boat.
Yep,
and it pretty much does.
Yep.
And some of my favorite things it's like the dumbest. It's like an outline. The anaconda eats somebody, and the outline of the body, and you can see the outline of the face through the anaconda's body. Is like that is patently stupid, and I love it. And then there's another part where the anaconda consumes John Voight, continues to chase after J-Lo and Ice Cube, and then he spits out John Voight.
That's right.
And he lands on the deck, and John Voight winks at J-Lo.
That's right.
And I was like, yes, that is. Totally over the top preposterous.
Yeah, Anaconda is a solid film.
But again, they're not wrong. It's not a good movie in any traditional sense.
I don't know about that.
But it is.
I would put it in the same category as Deep Blue Sea. Like,
yes.
It might not be. It's not The Shining, but
it's high entertainment value.
It is a fun movie, and nobody gets hurt.
Right.
Except for
no animals were hurt in this digital production of the.
That's right.
Of the Anaconda. So that takes us to the top of our guilty pleasures list.
Well, so this is the first time we have ever had an overlap between our lists and our dead undead list, because I'm here to tell you, on my dead undead list, as my undead pick this week was Anaconda.
No way! That's what
True story. True story. That is the first time we have ever lapsed over into the dead undead list, which I thought would never happen, but it did. I'm actually showing Eric the piece of paper that proves that I picked Anaconda as my undead pick of the week. So I'm going to let you go first with your dead film, the film that should stay dead, that you should stay away from, film viewing audience.
Stay away from.
Don't go see.
Okay. So after we've been showering all this love on guilty pleasures, idiot-proof movies, right? That it's like
idiot-full movies.
Idiot-full movies, but there's but the fact that their own idiocy doesn't deplete the enjoyment out of it.
Yes.
You and I, and I think on my insistence, when we went to Movie Madness, we went and it's like, well, what kind of genre do we want to pick? We picked 4 or 5 movies.
Right.
One of the worst movies we've ever seen was a film called Skeeter.
Oh.
In 1993.
Skeeter, which was the first time I had ever heard the word proboscis. I didn't know what the Skeeter needle was, and it's a proboscis.
And my God, that was
These are space alien... Yeah. No, space aliens infect the mosquitoes?
Yeah.
Is that what it was?
Or radioactive. I don't know what the exact genesis of it was. It kind of didn't matter.
I think there were space aliens. I think there was some radiation, some outer
space alien. Meteorite kind of a thing. Maybe.
Yes, yeah.
So don't take my word for it, because you really shouldn't see this movie.
Skeeter.
It is some of the worst visual effects you will ever see. Some of the worst green screening and composite shots. It was like, a 10-year-old could do better compositing.
And this was like pre
this is 1993.
Pre-sci-fi, the Sci-Fi Channel. Yeah,
this is worse than anything you'll see on the Sci-Fi Channel. This makes Zombievers look like high art. Yeah, right.
And we watched Skeeter, and then we followed it up with Castle Freak, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So one, two. There's like 2 hammer blows.
1-2 punch.
Yeah, that was not a good night from the rental shelf. Anyways, I would. You got to stay away from Skeeter.
Stay away from Skeeter.
So what's your dead movie?
Although, Skeeter, here's what I will say about Skeeter before we move on, because I would like to talk about Skeeter a little bit more. No, Skeeter, I think Skeeter is one of those kind of films that I could easily see being remade, like given proper budget. It could be a fun film. I mean, especially in light of like the Zika virus and everything else, and people's fear and dislike for mosquitoes. I still think there's a nugget out there.
Yeah, there's you could do it. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't take that plot though. No, but I think you can do a monster mosquito movie and effectively pull it off. This just was a failure.
Right. So my undead film, obviously we already talked about, was Anaconda, and you should see Anaconda if you haven't, because it is that good. My dead film, and this is kind of on a sad note, this is my dead film. This is the 2007 horror film written and directed by George Romero called Diary of the Dead.
Yeah.
It's just, it was like, I don't know if it was like he was just getting on in years and he didn't really have the time or patience to do it. He did say that, he was really apparently enthralled by the Blair Witch Project when he saw it, but he was so bothered by all the shaky cam footage, he just found it to be too chaotic and too dizzying, and so he wanted to redo something, but he also wanted to sort of take the zombie film into the modern era by telling kind of this kind of first person narrative, even though the thing that's weird about it is they still chose to use in this film like a cinematographer, right? So it's like a cinematographer shooting like cell phone footage, which It never felt. There
was a big disconnect, and I think
it never felt authentic.
His political statements were also really ham-fisted. I think that there was something.
I think he knew that there was something nefarious about the technology, but he didn't quite understand how to verbalize how nefarious the technology was.
Right. Yeah, it was really disappointing. It is sad because it's like it was. There's a steady decline in the quality of the Romero pictures. I think from Dawn of the Day on, I think Day of the Dead not quite as good as Dawn of the Dead.
Sure, yeah.
City of the Dead not quite as good as Day of the Dead.
Land of the Dead.
Land of the Dead. Right.
Yeah, Land of the Dead is great. Oh, Land of the Dead is not bad.
That was the one with Dennis Hopper, right?
Yeah.
I enjoyed that one, and I think that it was
John Leguizamo. Yeah.
So,
that
was all right.
Yeah. So Diary of the Dead. I wouldn't say I wouldn't call it totally dead in the sense of don't totally go see it. I mean, if you are a George Romero completist, and if you're listening to this podcast, we hope that you wander down that path and you
check all those boxes.
You check all those boxes for George Romero, because God knows he deserves it.
The industry owes him a huge debt of gratitude.
The industry owes him immensely, as do I. But yeah, it's not his best work. So, what do you got for
my undead movie?
Undead pick. So,
going back to
the movie to see
more snakes.
Yeah,
this is a
Samuel Jackson.
Yes. Snakes on a Plane, 2006.
Yeah, Snakes on a Plane is awesome.
Yep.
It was a joke when it came out,
but yeah, I think that we have that it is. This falls, I think, into the same kind of a guilty pleasures thing. Mm-hmm. The movie is preposterous and stupid, and yet, my God, when there are some moments in there, and they're the moments that you expect out of a movie like this, like couple doing the Mile High Club thing and getting bitten by a bunch of venomous snakes, and they end up dying in the bathroom. And of course, that it also plays up the the whole phallic notion of the snake, and this gets them just at the right moment. It was like, that's too perfect. Or the moment where there's the guy who sacrifices the little mini poodle dog, throws it and it gets snapped up. There were some great moments.
What's great about Snakes on the Plane is that the plot is so over concocted.
Oh yeah, it's ridiculous. It's like
it just keeps going, and you think, oh well, this is insane. They don't need to make the plot this convoluted, and it doesn't need to be this complicated. But no, they do, and they keep going at it, and it keeps getting more complicated unnecessarily.
Yeah, and
that's what makes it so great.
Well, that it's nominally a cop drama.
Right.
But it's also, there's like any of the airport movies, there's like everybody on the plane has a story.
Yep.
And, there's the sick kid and just flying home to get medical attention. And then there's the greedy bastard businessman, and then
you got them all.
The prima donna who had the little toy dog. Yeah, so that's
Stereotypes matter.
Yeah, they do.
Stereotypes matter. All right, so before we wrap up, let's go over our list again really quickly. Eric, what were your top 4 guilty pleasures for the week?
Number 4, John Carpenter's Ghost of Mars.
Yeah.
Number 3 is Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Yes.
Number 2 is Dagon.
Yeah.
And number 1, our crossover for the week, Anaconda.
All right.
Meister Campbell, what do you got?
I had the 1978 classic Piranha.
Woo!
The 1984 classic Silent Night, Deadly Night. The 1976 masterpiece Grizzly.
I gotta go check out Grizzly now.
Grizzly's fun. And then, of course, the 1975 all-star action-packed film The Devil's Reign.
All right.
That's a good week for guilty pleasures. So, before we go, don't go into the basement and dig out that old box of VHS tapes that contain your guiltiest pleasures, because you'll just waste the entire weekend watching old VHS tapes.
Indeed. Thanks. Check out our website. We'll talk to you later.